the Eagles have made their decision that he's not the guy anymore. If he was the guy, they'd be trying to fix
I do, yes. You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yes.
What are your thoughts on all this, John?
So what, is Aton getting killed for his picks? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, and I'm only showing the ones that I got right.
Of course. Look, if you're gambling and taking other people's advice, you got to live and die with it.
Right. Especially when you're not paying for it.
Exactly.
Right.
That is a free program.
Correct.
This is not. Nobody is pimping out an 800 number or 900 number or website or anything.
This isn't behind a paywall.
Well, technically, it's an app, but that's not.
Oh.
Well, fine.
No, but the show is not. I mean, you get that for free.
Yes, you don't have to sit. It's part of your free package.
Right.
Free show channel.
Yeah.
Like,
how about I'm still off on the fact that he acts professional with them, but he just gives us this A-time.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the unscripted, unstripped down A-time.
He's laid back. He's laid back.
Yeah,
trust me,
stand up straight like this.
I get nailed on that show all the time. Tom Shredcheck, or Shredder, as he said.
The Shredder. Yeah,
he destroys me.
All right, John,
Mafia.
Yeah, why is Carson Wentz still here? It's Monday. He's supposed to be gone by now.
It's President's Day. Everybody's, taking a little bit of time. Maybe, the Eagles are like a bank. They shut down for the day. No. But,
really?
I mean.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's pretty evident they haven't gotten a package that they're comfortable with. So that's why we're here. They don't want to accept 2 second-round picks, or maybe it's a conditional second-round pick that can turn into a first-round pick. One of the things about Jeffrey Lurie, whether it's scapegoating people or whether he wants a specific thing to sort of save face, in this case, a first-round pick, look, I think he puts these limitations on Howie Roseman, and you have to meet these standards or things can't get done. But at some point, you're going to hit a realization that we can't bring this guy back. So you're going to have to accept what you accept. And, one thing we've said from the start about Chris Ballard, he's going to be disciplined. And that is wreaking havoc with the Eagles right now.
All right, so here's my theory, okay? And I'll continue to pound this. Like Barrett has his theory on his island. This is my theory. The Colts know that they're the only ones that have a connection that truly is going to make Carson Wentz happy. And I don't know what happened with Flip and Wentz, but I'm going to bet. My bet, John, is that the connection with Reich and Wentz is stronger than Flip and Wentz, and Reich knows that. And Reich knows that whatever Chicago is being used or said to being discussed in this is simply a bluff or leverage. Maybe Chicago's using it for Carr or another quarterback, but Reich knows this and is just sitting back saying, we'll take Carson, but we're not going any higher than 2-2s. We're not going any higher than a 2 or 3 because we know that you don't have another buyer. You may tell us you have another buyer, but you really don't, because the only person who can put up with his crap is Frank Reich.
Well, and remember, by the way, Press Taylor is also in Indianapolis now.
And so is Mike Rowe. Everybody's there.
Well, Carson doesn't like Mike, so that fends against it. Carson wasn't necessarily in love with Mike Rowe. One of the reasons he was moved on from as well. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. He wants to be in Indianapolis. I think it has more to do with, look, Chicago's, you might as well be in Philly. I mean, those people are going to be just as brutal on him as they are here. So I think you have that aspect of it. Flip is going to be a difficult and hard on him coaching, which he probably needs. And there's a reason he was most successful under Flip when he was here. So maybe he has an epiphany at some point and says, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. But I do think you're right that the demand is not there. So this, Matthew Stafford-like package where the Eagles started out with, That's ludicrous. I think everybody knows that's ludicrous. But it looks like now they can't even get a first-round pick, and that's something they want to save base. And at some point, look, if you can't get it, you can't get it. You got to move on anyway. You already made that decision. You can't go back on it now. You can't. That would just kill this incoming coaching staff. It affects. I wrote on Philly Boys
on what? On not getting a one or keeping Carson Wentz.
Keeping Carson Wentz. I think you have to seriously look at drafting a quarterback in this draft. Now, if you have Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts, you can't draft the quarterback.
Well,
Howie Roseman. Go ahead, Barrett.
No, go ahead.
Wow.
I was going to say because
I love it. The chaos.
Because I think a little different from most. I think that you can bring Carson back simply because he will come back as the good soldier as far as being a guy that's not going to complain. We know he's not going to complain to the media. He's still going to come back being Carson Wentz, meaning he's going to come back and he'll still be socially challenged in the locker room. He'll still be socially challenged as far as how he relates to people. But I really think if he comes back and he has, a couple of games with over 350 yards, it'll be everything's well kumbaya in the city of Philadelphia, but not necessarily in the organization. He just needs to be fixed. And the way that you fix him is you have to put a little pressure on him to do the offense run the offense the way it's supposed to be run. And I believe he can do that. And I believe he sees the error in his ways. And that's why he will do that and listen to somebody besides himself.
Well, I think you're right. And Carson's not going to be a distraction in an overt way.
Right.
He's going to be a professional. He's not going to be one of those guys that looks for controversy, that creates controversy. And I think you put it well, Barrett. He's going to be, socially awkward in the locker room, however you want to describe it. All of that is true. I look at this from a larger viewpoint. The Eagles have made their decision that he's not the guy anymore. If he was the guy, they'd be trying to fix
I do, yes. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yes.
So from my standpoint, and I go back to what Howie Roseman said in 2016 about when you're in this position, and that was when he traded up twice to get at number 2. The Eagles aren't that high very often. They have to take advantage of that situation when they get this high. Now, they're starting at 6 this time, not quite as high, but if they get 2 second-round picks, they could even move up. My point is you don't have the answer at the most important position on your roster unless you think Jalen Hurts is that guy. I don't know how you could. He's the 53rd pick in the draft. No insult. He could turn into a great player. But I don't know how you could be that confident. So if you're going about your evaluation and you say Justin Fields is going to be a superstar in this league, you have to do everything possible to get him.
Yeah.
And if Lawrence is 1, Wilson is 2, you might have to go up to 3 or 4. But you have to do everything possible to solve this position. And if you're bringing Wentz back, it's just you're saying to yourself, we can't draft a quarterback. You're going to get a good player. Everybody's going to be happy with Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith or Sewell or whoever they pick because they're so high. But you're missing an opportunity to solve the quarterback position. And you can't do that just because you messed it up before.
Well, excuse me, guys. I mean, I'm sorry to jump in again, but I think the only way that they could really trade Carson Wentz is to wait till draft day and go in with one of these teams that looking for a quarterback and put their number 1 and Carson Wentz and trade for it down to that position.
Yeah, but then they already have to kick in that bonus or that money.
Well, they're going to have to kick in that bonus anyway. They're going to because they're not going to be able to trade him before that time. That's what I'm thinking. They're going to pay the $10 million. That's a foregone conclusion. But I just really think that nobody's going to take that right now because they're looking elsewhere at things that they can do. Carson has been the back of their mind. They're looking elsewhere to get their teams ready for number 1, the draft. Number 2, free agency opens up in less than a month. And they're, quarterback is not a position that these teams are willing right now to give draft capital for Carson Wentz. It's just not there. Not in my eyes.
Yeah, and they could trade him today if they want to take pennies on the dollar, but they don't want to.
No fair market value.
Yeah. So
here's the thing, real quick. Let's try and further this. We know what they don't want to. What will they do?
Right? I think they'll ultimately trade him, and they'll trade him before March 17th because they want to get their ducks in a row for the salary cap. We all know. We don't know what the number is going to be yet. It's going to be about 180 million because of COVID-19, the pandemic. So they're way over the salary cap. They've already started budgeting. They need to understand where they're going to be for this long-term plan, this transition phase. And that's part of it. I mean, part of it is just budgeting. And you want to have a clear, defined plan moving forward. The Eagles have already decided, okay, we're going to take the dead money hit, whatever. But again, that budget is more important than people think. And it's not just about 2021, it's about 2022 and 2023. So they want to get all those ducks in a row. And again, this team calls itself a quarterback factory. We all laugh about that, but they do place incredible value on that position, as everyone does, but them even more so than most people when it comes to the backup position. You have to get this position right. You can't just sit there and go, okay, maybe we win 4 games next year. Maybe we're in a position to get a quarterback next in 2022. That's never the way the Eagles have done business. You got to keep taking swings, hope you hit the home run. And there's a better chance that somebody like Justin Fields or even Trey Lance is a home run than Jalen Hurts.
Wow.
Yes, wow. So,
well, look at also, man, the fact that we still have Zach Ertz on the roster, and I heard well, they might trade Carson for and Zach Ertz to Indianapolis. You mean, do you think there's any truth in that? That package deal is good. I was hearing that. Then I heard the Jaws. He didn't say it in that. He didn't say it in a way that that's what they had offered him. But he said, there's been some, rumors, 2 this year and a 2 next year for Carson, and maybe even putting Zach Ertz in there to sweeten the deal. Is there any possibility with that?
Yeah, I don't know if it sweetens the deal because of his contract. It's that type of situation. I mean, Zach's a good player.
The worst year of his career. Like the Eagles really know how to sell high.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Throwing a big box of Domino sugar too. Sweeten it that way, or maybe some equal.
Well,
how about a box of thumbtacks?
Jeez.
At this point.
And that's the thing, you look at Indianapolis, we just talked about the salary cap. They have plenty of room. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But you got this assumption that because the Colts have room, that they'll just want to take on contracts
all these
for
players.
30-year-old players. I mean,
right.
And they have Jack Doyle, they have Mo Alley Cox, they have tight ends.
Right.
It's like, so, yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a sweetener for that. Would they like to have the player?
I love
Probably.
that. I love that. The way we do things around here, not saying us, but like the way it sort of comes out, however it comes out is, hey, we're trying to get rid of our franchise quarterback and he had a really bad year last year. So we'll give you his safety blanket. You can take him too, just so you take him off of our hands. And that becomes a thing.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's amazing, isn't it? It's just maddening. It's like expecting a team to be jumping through hoops to take Al Horford after last year,
right?
Off your hands.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, please, we would love to have Al on our squad with that money. Zach Ertz coming off this year and just seeing where everything is. I can't imagine that Carson is the next guy. I do wonder if Sam Darnold moves up. To Barrett's point about teams getting ready in the draft and capital and all, if Darnold is in a package or if Darnold is separate, like I could see the Jets, for example, running out something where they throw a ton at Houston. They get Deshaun Watson in return for the big package that we know they can offer that nobody else can match. And then in a separate deal, trade Sam Darnold back for maybe a third, fourth, whatever it is they could get in return to a team that's probably more like Chicago, John, that realizes, what the hell are we going to give up a first-round pick for Carr if we can give up a third or fourth-round pick for Darnold?
Yeah, I agree. You can Sam Darnold, Jimmy Garoppolo, even Marcus Mariota. I personally, they would have more impact for me as a general manager than Carson Wentz, simply because I don't think any of them is the answer. But you can move on quickly. Like if you're trading for Carson Wentz in that contract, which is from a team acquiring him, it's not a terrible contract, but still you're saying this guy's my future, at least for the next couple years. Whereas you can roll the dice on Darnold, Mariota, Garoppolo, and say, if it doesn't work out, these guys aren't that good. We'll just move on to the next one. So from that standpoint, look, you're shooting your shot. If you're Ryan Pace, you have to win this year or you're going to lose your job. Mm-hmm. So if you think Carson Wentz will help you win, you got to go get him. Does he think that? I think it's evident he hasn't gone and gotten him. So that tells you what he thinks.
Well, I know you're not just Eagles. You cover the whole league. So I just wanted to see what you thought about this. What do you think they do in New England with regards to the quarterback?
Well, I mean, the most obvious, if you have these dominoes falling, if San Francisco is willing to upgrade, is capable of upgrading, and they certainly want to. I mean, Kyle Shanahan is done with Jimmy Garoppolo. If they're able to upgrade, if they're able to get a quarterback that they want, then I think Jimmy Garoppolo is such a natural fit for New England. Never wanted to give him up. The timing didn't work. They wanted to go directly from Tom Brady to Jimmy Garoppolo, but Tom kept playing well. And they had to spin him off. They love him as a player. I don't necessarily agree with him, but I think that's the guy that they would want to get back if he hits the market.
Any NBA plays on your way out?
No, but seriously, man, there's a couple of dark horse, guys like the Saints, maybe even the Broncos, and just like you said, San Fran, that are looking at quarterback. What's the probability? Because there are some GMs that like Carson Wentz. They understand the player didn't necessarily fit with the circumstances that evolved around the team and their whole concepts on how they want to run their teams. But there are dark horse candidates out there, and if you were going to give 5 dark horse candidates, what would your 5 be?
Carolina would be in that. They were really into the Matt Stafford sweepstakes and really wanted Matthew Stafford, and I think that would be a great place for Carson because of Joe Brady. But they can also go draft. I think that's the problem. There's so many options. You mentioned Denver. You mentioned San Francisco, Oakland as well. Las Vegas, sorry. Keep using the Oakland Raiders. But Mike Mayock has always loved Carson Wentz. So I think he would be and John Gruden I talk about all the time. He just falls in and out of love so quickly. I think Derek Carr's a better player than Carson Wentz right now. But, John Gruden doesn't want him anymore. So he's always looking for the grass is always greener, bigger and better deal always for John Gruden. I think they could be a dark horse. And then New England. I mean, they got to get a quarterback. They're not going to bring Cam Newton. So I think those 5 teams, besides Indianapolis, besides Chicago, those are the teams in the market for a quarterback.
I'm on the other side of it. I think that we're so on the other, at least my view of it, guys, is that we're so on the other side of it that it's not even so much of adding teams to the equation, it's taking them away. Like I think we're closer to removing Chicago from this scenario than we are adding Denver or Vegas. And one of the reasons is because we haven't had you, Rob, Jimmy, any of your colleagues as well, to where there's been a concrete Carson for fill in the blank. The only quarterback that's been talked about coming back here is our old pal with the statue and Doug Peterson down there. It's never been about Garoppolo coming back. It's never been about Carr coming back, about Cousins coming back, about Deshaun Watson coming back. So that's where I look at this and I'm thinking, how much of this is just us projecting Carson Wentz somewhere else, and even Chicago. Like the blind taste test. If you lined up 10 general managers and just said, close your eyes, and you just read stats, and then you took away faces and you just showed a guy dropping back and throwing the football and the numbers that followed that, I would bet people would rather take Mitchell Trubisky at this point than Carson Wentz.
Oh, man.
I'm not going to go that far.
Wow.
You went. I agree with everything you said, Eitan, right up until Mitchell Trubisky.
Yep.
I mean,
stick it to Brooks.
He's the Owen Wilson of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I thought if I could just push it all right to the brink of it, I could get you on there, and then we could both collectively push the boulder on Barrett.
I mean, if you look at Chicago and what they did, and they made their late season run to the playoffs, but that was all David Montgomery. He came back and he won games, but I mean, they were, he's in his fourth year in the NFL. They're cutting the field in half with high, low reads for him. I mean, that's stuff you do for rookie quarterbacks. They were just bending over backwards because this guy can't do anything. Yeah. So as bad as Carson Wentz was last season, and I just said, I'd take Sam Darnold. I'd take Marcus Mariota even. I'd certainly take Jimmy Garoppolo. I would not take Mitchell Trubisky above
I'm
Carson.
with you on that. All right, so the 17th of March is the start of the new year, and that's free agency, I believe, begins that day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
Yeah.
So the Eagles, if they were going to move on from Carson Wentz before paying the extra money, would have to do it by Saturday?
March 15th is the legal tampering period. March 19th is a drop-dead date.
Oh, the 19th. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Third day of the league year. And that's their drop-dead where they have to pay him that money. As I said, just from a budgetary standpoint, I would think they want it cleared up by that point. Now, I'm sure Howie has a contingency. He's got one plan where he's here, one plan where he's gone, but you want to move forward. And as I said, the Eagles have made it clear by shopping him that they don't think he's the guy any longer. So once you know that, it's best to move on. Wait
a second, real quick. Is this level of dysfunction what caused a defensive backs coach to recognize he made an immediate mistake?
No. That's not what happened. He got a better job. He got a better job. And by the way, I give the Eagles credit because they could have stopped him. Pro contracts are different from college contracts. They could have stopped him from going to Alabama. He got more money. He got a better job. I give the Eagles credit for saying, okay, good luck.
I was trying to pin it on.
Yeah. No, that wasn't dysfunction. It was just, it's weird because the guy has had 4 jobs since the end of the 2020 season. He just moves. He took the Houston job, then the Eagles called, University of Houston, and he got a better job with the Eagles. And then all of a sudden, Alabama lost their secondary coach to Minnesota, the Vikings.
Yeah. And
they had an opening, and they said, let's call Jay. It's a lot more money to be a position coach at Alabama than as an assistant position coach in the pros. Mm-hmm. So I give the Eagles credit for letting them out of that because they could have played hardball, and they didn't. That was not a sign of dysfunction. There's plenty of dysfunction. I'll tell you about that, but that's not it.
I just don't see any way of this Eagles team at this point doing anything but just twiddling their thumbs with the Carson Wentz situation. I mean, it's just a no-win situation for him, and that's the only reason why I say he's not going to go anywhere. I just can't see them getting the fair market value for him. So since they can't get the fair market value, I mean,
what is the fair market value? Again, they're placing this a fair market value. The only reason they are, let's be honest, $33.8 million. Mm-hmm. So, they're losing face by eating that money.
And the capital that they've invested in him initially.
The draft capital move up.
On top of it.
Yeah.
But remember, that $33.8 million, that's all gone. It's already gone. So the Eagles have already paid that money. This is just a bad precedent to set in the league. So it's saving face. If that money didn't exist and Carson was on, say, the fourth year of his extension, he'd be out of here. So, all you're worried about is this 33.8 million, tag around your neck.
Cap value, yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're talking about. So you got to move on. At some point, Jeffrey Lurie's got to say, all right, let's swallow the medicine. Let's just do it.
Yeah, and it's the easiest hand to read at the table. Any owner, any general
no poker face at all, right?
Well,
No
yeah,
poker.
I mean it's the easiest. Who doesn't know the situation they're in? Carson Wentz speaking. Even if Carson came out and said, "I love Philadelphia," and this perception of trade value that he would damage, that's nonsense. Everybody knows exactly what you just laid out, John, right through Chicago and Indianapolis, which is, wait a second, we don't have to do anything. They are the ones who want a first rounder. They're the ones who brought in a 26-year-old head coach who's now going to have to deal with this
26-year-old
situation that Carson comes back to. Let them deal with that. All right, hey, you don't want to trade Carson for a second rounder? Go ahead and keep
I agree with Smash 72 Cutlass. Take the 2-2s and cut your losses.
Go to Indy.
So do I.
That's honestly.
But did they get that offer though? I think Jaws was really talking in general terms, because I think if they'd have gave that to him, they'd have took that in the New York Minute. I think the same thing. I would have taken the 2-2s. I don't think that they received 2-2s as a legitimate offer.
My guess is one of those twos was conditional.
Right.
So it's probably a third round that can move to a second round.
See, that's what I was thinking also. Conditional, yes.
Okay, but let's be fair. And John, this is where I think you and Barrett, and the funny thing is that we've got it covered from multiple angles. We've got somebody who has been integral in covering these types of situations to somebody who has been there and seen how this works from a player standpoint. But negotiations, we look at the outside like, well, the Eagles are holding out for A, and A is this big thing, but they could be holding out for Z or for W, which is like something really small. And like Dak Prescott, it could be the difference of $500,000 in a $35 million deal that they're holding out. That's team friendly. So in this case, it really could be the difference. Like when it's all said and done and he gets dealt for 2-2s, it's not so much that they were holding out for this one. It's they were wearing down Indianapolis from that conditional third to a 2 to actually be a 2. And that's what took 2 weeks to actually hammer down, as opposed to getting a 1 or something large or gigantic.
Yeah, it's always possible. I do think there's no question that Howie, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. When you start these negotiations, ask for the moon, and then you got to place, I say, if you're going to sell your car and you say it's worth 20 grand, whatever, you're not going to start at 20 grand. You're going to ask for 25 and come down.
Are you looking to buy my car?
Yeah. Well,
are you in the market for a new car?
I am not.
Okay. Barrett's cooking one up in his driveway. He's making.
But mine's actually street legal.
Okay.
Barrett, you buy it, it's some assembly required.
Fellas, this guy's snowing. What do you expect me to do, man? I can't go out there and work in snow, man. You guys are worse than my neighbors.
You didn't clear off the car from the snow that we had 2 weeks ago?
No, because he can't drive it. So why would he, right?
Why, yeah. All the other cars that I drive don't have snow on them, but the cars that car is just sitting there on blocks. In my
the car on blocks, you don't have to. You let the sun do the work. It'll eventually do the work for you.
We haven't had much sun.
No. It'll win in the end. It'll win in the end.
Exactly. And I hope the Eagles win in the end. But it's just so hard for me to believe that they're going to take their medicine and give up $33.8 million in wasted cap space.
Get ready for it.
Yes,
so a player being there, it's just hard for me to believe that Jeff.
What happens?
Jeff look like a laughing stock as far as owners in the league.
I think we should have a conversation where you accept that reality.
Yes.
What happens then? You have John McCullough here to lean on, all right?
Right. I would say this would be historically bad for the Eagles. In fact,
it'll be a bad precedent. But, to make it as simple as people for possible, we've all made mistakes. Everybody make mistakes. What's the first thing you got to do to correct a mistake? First, you got to admit you made one.
Right.
Admit it.
Hey, if I make a bad
which Carson doesn't do.
I do is bet out of it.
No.
Carson doesn't do that. He'll say we made the mistake and we needed to do better, not I.
Why? Where do you see that in his history?
That's what I'm saying. He never does it.
Okay, so you are just hold on a second. Like, do you realize the levels of assumptions that you're leaping?
Bro, what is my booth called? The expectation booth.
Right.
Now, daggone it, I like my expectation. When they play at my expectations, everybody goes and does well. The Sixers, they play at my expectations, they play well. The Eagles, if they
No, this is terrible.
Life is all about falling short of said expectations.
That's true.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, though, Barrett, your expectations will grow exponentially higher if the Eagles get Justin Fields than if they just have Jalen Hurts or a Carson Wentz reclamation project.
Yeah.
But here's the thing to that whole point, John, about even being in the position to draft Fields. If all we have in front of us is the Philadelphia Eagles trading Carson Wentz for 2 2s, how is that, Barrett, historically bad? And I think the difference is, yes, it's a precedent that has been set where now in the league you have a team that has eaten up so much dead money, and that in its own right from a fiscal standpoint is irresponsible. But from a trading a guy coming off historically bad year to getting 2 2s back, I don't necessarily see how that's a bad thing.
Well, it's a bad thing in the aspect if you look at Howie. At this point, Howie is not going to allow it to happen because right now his job is hanging on by a thread. So he has to do something totally outrageous to get back into the good graces.
How do we know that?
Yeah, his job has been safe through everything.
He's got a lifetime contract as far as I'm concerned.
Bro, there's only so much that you can do. He's done so much that he's got to be put in a situation where
I agree with Barrett. People talk about how he got fired once. I mean, granted,
that was Chip Kelly.
Demoted. And he got repositioned. He was still in that building.
Well, yeah, he's the first guy who got fired and got a pay raise for getting fired. But nonetheless, he moved him. He moved him out of that position. That tells you.
Did they take away his key card? Was he able to still get into both areas of not only the exterior, but the
I don't know about that. No, he only had access to one side of the building.
No, he could only go stock the medicine cabinets. That's what he had.
Trust me, you could have kicked Howie out of the building.
Yes. And
it would have been preferable than taking personnel power away from him. He loves that. Yeah. He lives for that. That was as I said, he got a better title. He got a raise. Right. But my only point is Jeffrey Lurie has already shown you that he can move him out of personnel. He might not fire him, but he'll move him out of personnel. At some point, Jeffrey Lurie scapegoats everybody.
Yeah.
So at some point, whether it's Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, Chip Kelly, Howie Roseman, everybody gets a turn, and Howie will get a second turn.
But only one guy has come back from this. Only one man has come back and lived to tell. Everybody else has gone on and perished into the flames. Only one has come back and lived to tell what life is like on the other side, and that's Howie Roseman.
Right.
D-Jack's also.
Who?
D-Jack.
Well, yeah, to a far lesser extent.
You could give Howie a kiosk in the Jetro lot as long as he maintained personnel decisions, and he'd be good with it.
Oh, no question.
He'd be very happy.
He wants to be a football guy, man. He wants to be that guy.
Hilarious.
John, I'm going to tell you the truth, man. I'm just.
Cover tonight against the Jazz.
Here we go.
Who we got covered? Sixers?
Yes, Sixers.
Embiid's not going to play, right?
Yeah.
Is he going to play?
I don't think so. No.
Embiid's got a bad back. He's not playing. No shot. No shot.
You want to know?
We said that a week and a half ago when he played. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
The Jazz right now against the spread, they're not bad, man. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
Utah 21-5. They're 11-2 straight up at home.
Yeah.
ATS at home, they're 9-2-1.
Gus Malzahn to UCF. It's official.
What? Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Jazz tonight.
Their coach went to
UCF's like
Tennessee.
an SEC team.
I know.
Well, so speaking of coaching real quick, and I don't know, does Gus Malzahn move the meter as far as any type of futures that you weren't going to place on UCF? Because if he does, let me know, and I'll place a futures bet, not to win the whole thing.
UCF has been traditionally that team that's been on the outskirts of shoulda, coulda, and woulda being in that playoffs, as far as their record. So
but Gus Malzahn's not going to be the difference of why an undefeated UCF team makes it.
It's an upgrade. He's an upgrade from what they had. He's a
big name, but
he's a
big name.
Well, big name. So consider that with his ability to recruit and get those players from Florida State and Florida and Miami.
They already
might be an
undefeated team, and they weren't even recognized by the playoff committee. My point
they
is,
declared themselves national champions.
That's right.
I applaud.
I do too.
Gus Malzahn's not going to be the reason why the committee says, now we need to bump him in there.
No.
That's my point.
Well,
you guys on this Gus bus, Jesus.
There's 5 teams that have a chance in college football, and that's why it's no fun. It's Alabama, Clemson,
Oklahoma, Ohio State,
Notre Dame. That's it.
I disagree. I think there's a lot of
LSU.
Right?
Yeah, LSU, but they're down for a little while.
I'm exaggerating, obviously, for a fact.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe Texas A&M.
In the SEC. Obviously, if you win the SEC, you're going to be in.
No question.
Speaking of coaches, what the hell was Urban Meyer doing? Does anybody have any idea, what the hell?
I told you, I couldn't believe he hired that guy. That was the guy who had the trouble at Iowa.
You brought this up on Thursday, and we had all this crap going on Friday. So now here on
he's out.
What is going on? Why?
That's Urban Meyer thinking he can get away with everything, and he's in Columbus, Ohio,
where he could have
been in the NFL.
He could have gotten away with it if he was at Columbus, Ohio. He could have brought him in and just be done with it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're going to give him a year and a half, and he's going to take a hiatus. He's going to take a mental leave, and he'll be done with it in just a minute. So
but here's my question about that, Barrett, and John and Harry and everybody else out here is we've seen Urban Meyer play the family hiatus card to move up in college, to move up in the ranks. Now, some of it had to do with success, right? You can't just be a bonehead and keep moving up. Well, sometimes you can't be a bonehead and keep moving up. It's much more difficult to do that in the NFL. So I wonder if what if he puts together a 9-win season? What if, he looks and looks at this and over 2 years he wins, 17, 18 games, something like that, to where all of a sudden he realizes he's in this contract. He can't get out of it just to walk and pull something like that. And then 3 months later, we see him take a job for a team that's, 2 steps ahead of Jacksonville, and he's back to his old tricks, right? He's back to his old antics, taking time away for his family, but that's really just to solidify a new job.
I don't think he could do that. I don't think he could do that in the NFL, but he could go back to college. It could be one of those situations when he realizes, look, he's getting the best you can possibly get. I mean, everybody says Lawrence is the best prospect since Andrew Luck. Some people say he's the best quarterback prospect since John Elway. So you're starting out with that, and he's going to realize pretty quickly, just like Nick Saban did. Nick Saban, maybe the greatest college coach of all time. You can't recruit in the NFL.
No.
You can be bad. You can have a couple good draft picks, but everybody's on an even playing field.
Well, that's why this year he is like he's at Ohio State, because he's getting the best quarterback available. So for this 1 year, he kind of is at Ohio State.
And that's what I mean. Yeah. This is his apex.
Yeah.
He gets the quarterback, and then you got to build everything around him. And they probably will go from terrible to 9 wins pretty quickly. And everybody will be saying, Urban Meyer's got them going in the right direction. No, it's the quarterback.
Weren't they in the AFC Championship game just a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fearless. That was fearless Doug Peterson.
Right.
Criticizing Doug Marrone for getting a little bit conservative. But
that was a year after or 2 years after Doug Peterson did not shut down the comparisons of Carson Wentz to Brett Favre. Is that a year or 2? I forget.
I'm not sure.
You love to go back and you just want to stick the pin in, man. Come on, man.
Just remember, Carson Wentz was supposed to be Brett Favre.
But that's how quickly things moved. So what were the championship games that year? It was Eagles, Minnesota.
Yeah.
They both stink now.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was Jaguars, Patriots. And they both stink now.
Yeah. I'm not willing to give up totally on the Patriots, but yes.
Oh, I am.
Now.
I'm out on them.
You don't think they're going to be a good team next year?
No.
Didn't the Jaguars beat the Steelers that year in Pittsburgh?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Patriots have money. They've got at least 4 guys coming back on defense.
They don't have somebody named Tom Terrific there, bro.
That's
a
true.
lot of teams didn't have Tom Terrific, and they were okay.
I'm gonna say it
all right,
again.
guys, and I'm going to have to bail now because my laptop is going to die. So I'm not plugged in.
Appreciate you, man.
That's
the
Mafia for life, baby.
I've ever heard. I'll
All right,
give you
guys.
the first one, but John's got to go for this, so we can't get it.
There he is.
An excuse
He
that
hates to do it to us.
I missed a date because I was thrown out of a moving vehicle,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. It was beautiful. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. This whole show has been overtime.
This has been overtime. Yes.
Brought to you by
I
Book
agree.
Sports. We are back on a Tuesday.
Are you looking for a place to track your action, purchase picks, and share your sports betting analysis with the gambling community? Check out Book It Sports, a social media platform with an unparalleled experience catered for the sports betting community. On the Book It Sports app, you can track all your NFL, NBA, and college basketball picks while getting real-time updates and injury reports all in one convenient place. Start building your following today and stand out amongst your friends by downloading the Book It Sports app on the Apple and Google Play stores. Let's cash some tickets and put it on Book It.